All right, man. Appreciate everybody for checking in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell icon button, share the video. Let's talk about some Lions. The Lions preseason is probably going to be canceled. At one point, they talked about canceling half of the Detroit Lions preseason. The NFLPA, the Union National Football League Players Association, they said that they actually want to not play any preseason games. So let's talk about the ramifications that might have on the Detroit Lions. Appreciate everybody for checking in. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, bell icon button, share the video. But yeah, man. To kind of think about it, it's probably gonna be it's gonna be difficult. Because the Lions over the last 2 years with Matt Patricia, or it's gonna be an adjustment, let me use the proper word. The Lions the last 2 years have had preseason. Now Matthew Stafford, I think he played last year he played in one preseason game, so it won't be no adjustment for him. But the Detroit Lions, they have joint practices with the Patriots also to keep the offense and defense kind of sharp. And really what you have here is you have no joint practices and you may have no preseason. And for the Lions, that's going to be an adjustment because really your scrimmages is really going to be coordinator versus coordinator. And we all know Matt Patricia is the actual defensive coordinator for the Lions. So that's kind of going to be the adjustment right there for us that we used to doing joint practices. And a lot of players don't like joint practices, And basically, you have to go off last year's film for the Chicago Bears, which to me, that takes a little steam off of week one. And I think if they knew the NFL that it wasn't going to be a preseason in the beginning, they would have probably ordered all Division I games week one. Now I know the majority of week one is probably going to be a divisional games, but that's the perfect setup for the Lions coming out of this virtual offseason. Is a division game. The reason I say it's perfect for a division game is because guess what? This is not Kyler Murray. You don't have to guess what version of the air raid offense and the adjustments Cliff Kingsbury gonna make. You know what Nick Foles is bringing in the league. You know what Trubisky is bringing. You know what their defense is bringing. You know what Matt Nagy is doing. This is a team we played two times a year, and we whooped them for like 3 straight years at a point in time. We familiar with them. Straight up and down, we are familiar with the Chicago Bears. So that's a great possibility to open up at home, probably with minimum fans, against a divisional opponent. So when you're talking about how offseason affects the Lions, that's the positive version of it. Now, for the negative version of every team is you don't get to see what rookies or what, undrafted free agents and the players you bring in that don't have a solid contract or guaranteed contract, you're not able to see how they perform in game situations. Are you really going to go full contact in special teams like you would in a regular preseason game? No. And some guys play better in the game than they practice. You go to the Terrell Davis story. Terrell Davis was a guy, they went over to Japan to play a preseason game, and I guess he hadn't practiced too well. He thought he was going to go home and get cut from the Broncos. He ends up in a preseason game making the tackle of the game, and he made it, and he had a huge impact on that game. He ended up staying because of special teams. So, special teams is going to be a key, and then picking through certain players, without game situations, it's going to be tough. Seeing what these dudes got in live action, but it's small things to a giant as far as that situation. So I really would knock that. But you do want to know, what your undrafted and some of the, non-guaranteed guys and some of the free agent guys you bring in, practice squad players you bring in, got the offer. But every football team gonna be, held accountable and have to deal with all that and how they deal with that. So other than that, man, it's just gonna be basically how creative Matt Patricia gonna be, how creative he gonna be with the offseason. That's it. because I remember as a kid, the year the Lions, I want to say the year they went 0-16, and not even, I don't think it was that. It was one of the Rod Marinelli years. It wasn't that year because I was going off to college that year. It wasn't that year. But it was one of the years when Marinelli had the team, and he would talk about pad level, and he would talk about, how good, the defense or the offense looked that day. And this was before, I don't think they was doing joint practices at the time. And, when the season came, the Lions looked terrible. The offense looked terrible. The defense looked terrible. And what you got to understand is you practicing against yourself. So the good football teams that got good offense, got good defense, you know what I'm saying, it's going to be hard to tell. But the bad football teams that got, bad offenses and bad defenses, or a good offense and a bad defense, or a bad defense and a good offense, you're not going to know until game day, like, what's the strength of your side, the side of the football. So, it's just going to be adjustments. It's just going to be, keeping things hot. It's going to be being creative. It's going to be about, managing the team a lot better. But you know what? A lot of players like Golden Tate spoke out. He was the Giants now and said that he don't need preseason. But I do think preseason, is needed if you're not going to have joint practices, though. But, I expect the Lions to figure it out. And also you talking about social distancing during all this, and who gonna get sick, during all this, and it's probably gonna be an outbreak in the locker room of corona in some of these NFL teams, man. But it's gonna be tough. Also, because with no preseason, also they're gonna run the prices up on the fans. But talking about the positions that it's probably going to affect with no preseason. And remember, and also, this is something else that every football team is going to be dealing with. No more two-a-days. Now, two-a-days, if they still had two-a-day padded practices, which maybe this is something they're going to bring up at the negotiation table. If they had two-a-day padded practices, this transition would be a lot smoother. Real talk. People say, oh, what's the difference between two-a-day? Hitting. Tackling, form, technique. And when you kind of go into training camp and you put the pads on, you're hardening the body and preparing the body to go to war. When there's not that preparation to go to war, or you limit that preparation, the body doesn't perform the way it needs to. It takes time. And the reason why you've seen the rise of soft tissue injuries and season-ending injuries in training camp is because the players asked for two-a-days in the last CBA to be took down to a minimum, or they minimize the padded practices. And when you minimize the padded practices, this is what you get. So also, they might want to reconsider putting, more padded practices back, bringing these two-a-day practices back, since they don't have a preseason. Because when you do two-a-days and if you do no two-a-days and you say no preseason, it's going to be a lot of week one injuries. It's going to be a lot of missed tackles. You know what I'm saying? The offense, even though the defense usually comes together faster than the offense, you may really see the offenses really take off. You should see a lot of high scoring games week one. So that's something that the NFL may have to sit there and reconsider, is bringing in two-a-day padded practices again. That would single-handedly probably supplement not having a preseason, where we can pad up in the afternoon, in the morning, we can pad up in the afternoon. That will supplement, but a lot of players not gonna want to do that, and they think they choosing the healthier choice, but you're not. So week one is probably gonna have a lot of missed tackles. It may be some misconnections between receivers. You know what I'm saying? Especially with the Lions, with a new offensive line. They got to build that camaraderie up. So, for the veteran players like Stafford, and the positive thing about the Lions, offensively, a lot of them players got a lot of connections. Amendola, Galladay, Jones and Stafford, Hawkinson and Stafford, You know what I'm saying? So good for the Lions offensively. Stafford has somewhat of a connection with most of his receivers and pass catchers. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Anything I missed about, preseason, not having a preseason impact the Detroit Lions. Appreciate the love, support. Don't forget me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can reach out if you have business question, inquiry, sponsorship, video requests. Twitter's the fastest way, then Facebook, then IG. Want to make a donation, just share the video, but Cash App, PayPal, subscription. Let me know what you guys think. We're going